It was a freezing night in New York City. Daniel Carter, a 45-year-old taxi driver, sighed as he glanced at the clock on his dashboard, 2:14 a.m. Business had been slow, and he was exhausted. His wife and kids were fast asleep at home, unaware that he was still out here, desperately trying to earn enough to pay the overdue rent. Just as he was about to call it a night, his radio crackled. A last-minute pickup request. He hesitated, but something told him to accept it. The location? A dimly lit street on the outskirts of the city. As Daniel pulled up, he saw a frail old man in a worn-out coat, shivering in the cold. The man slowly approached the cab and spoke in a weak voice. "Sir, I don't have enough money, but I need to get home. It's a matter of life and death." Daniel's first instinct was to refuse. He had bills to pay and a family to feed. But something about the old man's eyes, full of desperation yet dignity, made him pause. He thought of his own father, who had passed away years ago. With a deep breath, Daniel unlocked the door and gestured for the old man to get in. "Don't worry about the fare. I'll take you home." The old man's lips trembled, his eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you, son. You don't know what this means to me." As Daniel drove through the quiet streets, the old man remained silent, gazing out the window. When they finally arrived at a small apartment complex, he turned to Daniel and pressed a frail hand against his. "God bless you, young man. What's your name?" "Daniel Carter," he replied with a smile. The old man nodded. "I won't forget your kindness, Daniel." And with that, he slowly made his way up the steps and disappeared inside. Daniel thought nothing of it and drove off, forgetting the encounter by the next morning. 3 days later, Daniel was in the middle of another shift when his phone rang. It was an unknown number. He hesitated, but picked up. "Hello, is this Daniel Carter?" "Yeah, who's this?" "Sir, I am calling on behalf of Mr. William Harrington. He would like to meet you at his residence today at noon." Daniel frowned. "I think you have the wrong person." "No, sir. Mr. Harrington specifically asked for you. He said you would understand." The name rang a bell. William Harrington? Wasn't he one of the richest men in the country? The billionaire real estate tycoon? Why would someone like him want to meet a struggling taxi driver? Curious yet skeptical, Daniel decided to go. At noon, Daniel arrived at a massive estate, his jaw dropping at the sheer size of it. The mansion stood tall, surrounded by perfectly trimmed hedges and golden gates. A butler escorted him inside, leading him to an elegant sitting room where an elderly man sat by the fireplace. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. It was the same old man from 3 nights ago. But now he wasn't wearing a tattered coat. He was dressed in an expensive suit, looking healthier and stronger than before. You're William Harrington?" Daniel stammered. The old man chuckled. "Yes, son, and I owe you my life." He gestured for Daniel to sit. "That night, when you picked me up, I had just left the hospital after collapsing in my office. My doctors warned me to rest, but I refused. I had been working nonstop for decades, building my empire. Yet in the end, I had no one to share it with. That night, I felt lost, alone, and for the first time, I had no one to call." His eyes softened. "Until you came along," Daniel sat frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. "You didn't know who I was, yet you helped me. In a world where people only care about money, you showed kindness without expecting anything in return." Harrington reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "I want to repay your kindness, Daniel." Daniel hesitated before opening it. Inside was a check for $500,000. His breath caught. "Sir, I can't accept this." Harrington smiled. "You can, and you will. Consider it a thank you for reminding me what truly matters. But that's not all." He leaned forward. "How would you like to work for me?" Daniel blinked in shock. Work for you? Doing what? I've been looking for someone honest and compassionate to run a new business venture, helping struggling taxi drivers, just like you. You understand their struggles. You've lived it. I want you to lead the project. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. This wasn't just money. This was a second chance, a fresh start. He thought about his wife and kids. No more sleepless nights, no more worrying about rent. He could finally give them the life they deserved. With a shaky breath, Daniel nodded. Yes, I'd love to. Harrington grinned. Then it's settled. Welcome to the family, Daniel. Daniel entered that mansion as a struggling taxi driver. He left as a man whose life had changed forever. One act of kindness, one free ride, and it had led to something he never could have imagined. So the next time you have a chance to help someone, do it, because you never know who might be sitting in your back seat.